Good morning. We are currently at the Dazaifu Government Office ruins in Dazaifu City, Fukuoka Prefecture. I've already discussed this in another video, but this place, Dazaifu, was the center of politics and diplomacy in ancient Kyushu, Japan. Right next to it, there is a stone monument engraved with historic site, Dazaifu Ruins. And right beside it, for those living in this area, this name might be more familiar to you, the Tofuro Ruins. As such, this is a historically significant location, and for tourists interested in history, it's likely one of the spots they would consider visiting when they come to Fukuoka. Here, we have an information board. The right side is for international visitors, and the left side is for Japanese visitors. Let's take a closer look. The period is the Nara era, which is about 1,300 years ago in Japan. At that time, Japan's center was Heijiokyo, the capital of Japan. A bit further away from there, in the western capital where I'm currently standing, Dazaifu was located. So, what was this place? Because of its proximity to the Korean peninsula and the mainland, it became a very important place for trade with the Chinese dynasty of the time, which was called Tang. This was a key site for exchanges. It was also where Japan traded with countries on the Korean peninsula, such as Balhae and Sheila. One of Dazaifu's roles at the time was trade. The board contains various details, but it mentions that the most prosperous country around Japan at that time was China's Tang dynasty. Japan frequently sent envoys to Tang, known as Kintoshi, to gather books and information and brought them back to Japan. On the other hand, people from overseas also came to Japan, so Dazaifu served as a place to host foreign envoys, entertain them, and conduct trade on behalf of the capital. When hosting national representatives, naturally, an appropriate location was needed. Thus, in what is now Dazaifu, a meticulously organized city was established. Now, looking over here, it says capital for receiving foreign envoys. Foreign envoys would first arrive at Sakushi Pavilion in the Hakata Bay area, then proceed to Dazaifu. That's what it says here. Some unfamiliar historical terms appeared, so let me explain using a map. In the past, Dazaifu and Hakata Bay were connected by two roads. That said, the coastline you see now is the modern coastline, so if we recreate the coastline from the Nara period, it looks like this. According to the information board, envoys coming from overseas would first enter Sakushi Pavilion, which is also known as Kurokan, and then make their way to Dazaifu. So next, let's head to Kurokan. From the Dazaifu Government Office ruins where I am now, heading toward Kurokan would likely follow the route that foreign envoys took on their way back to their own countries. The direction to Kurokan is to the right on the road in front of us. So, leaving the Dazaifu Government Office ruins, we'll head to the site where Kurokan used to stand. First, we'll leave Dazaifu and follow the path that has existed since ancient times. Along the way, on both sides of the road, there are areas where trees are densely grown. This is Mizuki, one of the defensive structures protecting Dazaifu. Since we're heading toward the center of Fukuoka, let's take the highway and check out the coastline. In the city of Fukuoka, due to the presence of the convenient Fukuoka airport, there are very few extremely tall buildings. This height restriction also affects the expressways, resulting in sections like this where they go underground. What you see on the right now is the runway of Fukuoka Airport. There are no planes flying at the moment, but really, you can experience planes flying right in front of your eyes. We've arrived near Hakata Bay. From here, we'll take a sharp left turn and follow the coastline. As we proceed a bit further, there's a large bridge like this, and once we cross it, you'll see Fukuoka Tower and Fukuoka Dome, iconic landmarks of Fukuoka. This time, right after passing Fukuoka Dome, we'll exit the expressway at the Momochi exit and head to the site where Kurokan once stood. As you can see from the footage, the direction we're heading in is one of the most bustling areas in Fukuoka. In other words, the site of Kurokan is located right in the middle of present-day Fukuoka City. And so, we've arrived at Ohori Park, where the site of Kurokan is located. As the name Ohori Park suggests, this park has a large moat. What you see in front of you now is a pond, but it used to be a moat. It's easier to understand if we look from above. There's a pond like this, and this is our current location. While it is now a pond, it was once part of the sea. Looking at it from a distance, it looks like this. You can see how the sea once extended close to where Kurokan was. By the way, as time passed, around the Edo period, this area became the site of Fukuoka Castle, and a castle town began to form here. Because of this history, castle gates and stone walls still remain in this area. That said, since it's outside the scope of this video's theme, we won't visit Fukuoka Castle. Where we're heading next is here, Fukuoka Square. The open space in front of us is called Fukuoka Square, but nothing remains there now. Let's take a look at the map beside us. We are currently at this red section, and next to it is Fukuoka Square. It's marked as the site of the Hakata baseball stadium. This now empty square once had a baseball stadium. This is what it looked like when the stadium was here. If you look closely, you can still see traces of the stadium shape in the layout of the square today. There's a sign here that says Fukuoka Ruins. According to the sign, the Fukuoka was an ancient guest house established in 3 locations in Japan, but this Fukuoka in Sakushi is the only site where ruins were confirmed. This is the reconstructed image of what Fukuoka might have looked like. It's recreated using CGI. These ruins were discovered during excavation conducted during the stadium's renovations. Now, the ruins are preserved. If you look at the ground in the square, you'll see red lines like this. What are these? It's easier to understand from an aerial view, but the red lines form a square. These lines indicate the locations of the buildings discovered during the excavations and mark their positions on the ground. Looking to the south, there's another line, and a building close by. You can see the building over there. This building, if you look at the sign on the left, is labeled Fukuoka Ruins Exhibition Hall. Let's head inside the exhibition hall. This is the view as you enter. You'll find a life-size reconstructed model of the Fukuoka building in the excavated ground preserved as it was discovered. As for the life-size reconstructed model, its shape is a bit irregular, but it seems to be designed for clarity. The parts visible in the back represent the original structure, and it's been displayed in a way that makes it easy to understand how it was constructed. For instance, tiles have been removed to expose the roof structure, and the structure of the building's pillars is also visible. These features are based on what was found on the ground's surface or buried deep underground. For example, the holes dug into the ground have helped researchers confirm what existed here. After detailed study and analysis, it's been presented in a way that makes it easier for us to understand. So, what exactly was the Fukuoka? As I mentioned earlier, the Fukuoka was the first place foreign envoys visited when they came to ancient Japan. The Sakushi Pavilion, later known as the Fukuoka, first appeared in records during the late Asuka period. In the subsequent Nara and Heian periods, it was recorded as a place where envoys such as Kentoshi and Kinshishi stopped. Here's an explanation of the Fukuoka, though the text is quite complex. If I were to rephrase it in modern terms, the Fukuoka was like a branch office of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs set up in Kyushu. I think that's a fairly accurate description. Excavations in this area revealed that the Fukuoka can be divided into 3 main periods. Orange represents the early Nara period. Blue represents the mid-Nara period. Green represents the late Nara to early Heian periods. Through research into these 3 periods, they've been recreated using CGI. This is what the area looked like in the early Nara period. This is the mid-Nara period. From the late Nara to the Heian period, this is what the area looked like. At this site, ruins from these 3 periods overlap. Foreign envoys who came here would first enter Hakata Bay, then proceed to the Fukuoka. From there, they followed the road to enter the Zaifu via the western gate of Mizuki. Of course, as diplomatic envoys, they brought items like specialty products and ceramics made in their countries as well as information. The countries Japan interacted with at that time included those in present-day China and the Korean Peninsula. Hearing all of this, it becomes clear that Fukuoka, where I am now, served as the gateway to ancient Japan. Did Japan directly engage in trade at the time? Probably not, but Japan was connected to the world through intermediaries. It seems Japan has been globally connected since ancient times. Perhaps the most famous envoys from Japan at the time were the Kentoshi, the envoys to Tang China. They boarded ships like these to travel to what is now China. At the Heijiokyo ruins in Nara Prefecture, there's a life-size model on display. Initially, the route from Kyushu passed along the coast of the Korean Peninsula and then headed toward China. Later, the route was changed, passing through the southern seas to reach China. While the northern route was considered safer, relations with the Korean Peninsula deteriorated, prompting the use of the southern route. Here, a list of Kentoshi missions is displayed. At the top is the first mission, noting the northern route. But as you scroll down, you'll see the switch to the southern route. foreign envoys arriving in Japan would come here, finally feeling they had reached Japan. This was a place to rest and recuperate. Likewise, Japanese envoys would likely stay here before departing. This was a place to prepare for their journey overseas, saying their final goodbyes. It must have been a place filled with excitement as they set off on their journey abroad. Now, let's exit the Kurokan exhibition hall. At the time, this place functioned as a gateway connecting Japan to the world. So, what happened to Japan's diplomatic gateway after the Kurokan fell out of use? To answer briefly, the role of the Kurokan was inherited by a place many of you probably know, Hakata. With that, next, we'll head to Hakata. Leaving Ohori Park, we're heading east. The central area of Fukuoka can be broadly divided into two areas, Tenjin and Hakata. We'll now pass through Tenjin, on our way to Hakata. What we're seeing now is a major intersection in the heart of Tenjin. Looking at it today, you can see many people walking and lots of cars passing by. That said, we're discussing Fukuoka during the Nara period. If we look at a map of that time, the area we're passing through was actually under the sea. It wasn't until the Edo period that this area became walkable. Focusing on Hakata, where we're heading, there's a river running through it. The area currently called Hakata is located on the southern side of the river. However, historically, the area referred to as Hakata was on the northern side of the river. So, there's a significant difference between the modern Hakata and the historical Hakata. We've traveled quite a bit, and the road to the right at this intersection is Taihaku Street. If you continue straight on this road, you'll reach JR Hakata Station, the largest JR hub in Kyushu. Here is Hakata Station. It remains a bustling gateway to Kyushu even today. The Taihaku Street we just passed is located here. Right next to Taihaku Street, there's an escalator going underground, leading to an underground shopping arcade like this. Our destination is here, the Gion Station connecting passageway. Even to those living in Fukuoka, this passage might not be very familiar, but actually, there's something interesting here. The passage itself looks like this, with not much to see. But near the entrance to the passage, there's an exhibit space called the F Gallery. It features an exhibit titled Ancient Hakata Revived Through Excavations, the Hakata Ruins. It showcases the excavations conducted in this area, the findings, and artifacts discovered. What we see here is Taihaku Street, which we passed earlier. Looking to the side, there's a panel titled Discovery of the Hakata Ruins. It explains how, although it was believed that traces of ancient life in Hakata were destroyed due to continuous habitation, excavations revealed the Hakata of the medieval period. One of the panels displays a map. Since we're currently underground at Hakata Station, this area is where we are now. As mentioned earlier, ancient Hakata was located some distance away from here. In addition to the map I just mentioned, there are various other panels that chronologically illustrate the history of Hakata's development through maps. That said, since many people are familiar with Google Maps, let's try recreating these historical maps using Google Maps. Here we are on Google Maps. The current location, Hakata Station, is here. This direction leads to Tokyo, and this direction leads to Kagoshima. The Tenjin district we passed earlier is roughly in this area. If we recreate the coastline from the Yuyai to Kofun periods in this area, it would look something like this. There wasn't a river here at that time, so let's fill it in. Looking at it this way, you can see that the area now known as Tenjin was once part of the sea. Additionally, mid-Yuyai period ruins were discovered around here, indicating that people once lived in this area during that time. Now, moving forward in time, this is what the area looked like during the Nara to Heian periods. Excavations have revealed that administrative buildings were located in this area. At this time, the Kurokan was still functioning, but traces of settlements, graves, and even port facilities have been discovered, indicating that this Hakata area was thriving. Moving further in time, this is the coastline during the Kamakura to Muromachi periods. By this time, the Kurokan had declined, and the center of diplomacy had shifted to Hakata. Looking at the facilities in the area, many temples were built, and notable shrines like Kushida Shrine and Sumiyoshi Shrine also appeared during this period. It seems the area had started resembling modern-day Hakata to some extent. However, one major difference is that this area was still connected by land, unlike today. The river here didn't exist until the Sengoku period. The sea in this area suddenly disappears in this map, but keep in mind that this map is somewhat approximate, so don't take it too seriously. Later, during the Azuchi Momoyama period, Hideyoshi organized the town's layout. By the Edo period, the Tenjin area became a castle town, while the Hakata area developed as a merchants district. This is the historical background of the area. The maps I've shown you were created based on the exhibits here. Since this is located underground at Hakata Station, it's easy to access, so if you're interested, feel free to visit. This underground passage, located directly under Taihaku Street, is situated on the site of many ruins related to trade and diplomacy. That said, nothing remains here today, so let's head back to the surface. Today, Hakata is filled with an urban landscape like this, but even long ago, before such buildings existed, it was clear that Hakata was a major hub for Japan's diplomacy and trade. This intersection here is the area I mentioned earlier, where Meiji period ruins were discovered. And looking to the right side of the road, you'll see a temple. I mentioned earlier that temples like this appeared in this area during the Kamakura and Muromachi periods. Thinking about Hakata's history like this might give you a different perspective on the sites you see today. Now, we've continued straight along Taihaku Street. At this intersection, we'll turn left, and our next destination is Hakata Port. We're going to see how the city of Fukuoka, which has a history as a trading hub, looks today. In front of us is Hakata Port Tower. We've arrived at Bayside Place Hakata. Since we've come all this way, I thought, why not climb this tower and take in the view from the observation deck? Unfortunately, today happens to be a closed day. So, there's no helping it, I'll walk toward the sea instead. Along this path, there are facilities that show Hakata still functions as a hub for trade. We've arrived. This is Hakata Port. You can still see large ships here today. Looking into the distance, that building over there is a flour mill of the well-known food company, Mission. Looking to the side, you can see companies related to grains and cement lined up along the area. On the opposite side, you can see plenty of shipping containers. Even today, the city of Fukuoka serves as a trading hub and plays a role in Japan's economy. Thank you for watching.